Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 17th Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask the Reverend Fiver if he'd come forward for an invocation this evening. Good evening, Reverend. It's nice to see you once again and back in the saddle, so to speak.
Nice to be here in person.
Absolutely. Welcome.
And thank you for inviting us and having us as part of this. We appreciate that. May we gather in prayer. O Lord, you have created us in all our diversity, and you have placed us in community, in particular in this beautiful oceanfront community called Dare County. We have been blessed in many ways. We are gathered here this evening to do the work of governing, the challenging of bringing together this wonderful diversity into a nurturing community, a place where all can live and grow. May we first give thanks for all our public servants who have worked so diligently and competently over the past year combating the coronavirus pandemic. Their efforts have significantly limited the effects of this scourge on the Outer Banks community. This evening, be with those who have been elected to serve our community as its governors. Keep them mindful of the continuing task of unifying, caring, and nurturing each of our fellow citizens. Be with them in their deliberations. Give them ears to hear clearly, minds to think clearly, and a spirit of service dedicated to the common good. At the same time, be with all our fellow citizens, particularly those who have suffered the ravages of the coronavirus. May we be responsive to the leadership of these, our elected leaders. May we also share in our personal lives the same tasks and goals that we have entrusted to these, our leaders. May we be blessed, and may we all serve the common good. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
May we stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, note that all commissioners are present. We have Commissioner Ross on the phone once again this evening with us. He's out of town. Commissioner Ross, can you hear us?
Loud and clear, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's opening remarks.
Okay, thank you, County Manager. Just have a couple of items this evening. Commissioner Ross, you're going to love this one. Once again, First Flight's high school student, Catherine Schuster, has won her fourth consecutive 1A, 2A women's high school golf championship. She fired a 2 under par 70 in the single round tournament, which was held at Pinehurst, number 8 in Pinehurst in North Carolina.
Cool deal.
Just incredible record, 4th in a row. And just a note, Clemson ought to be happy because Clemson, she has signed a letter of intent to attend Clemson. So I'm sure Clemson will be very, very happy to have her on their golf team. So hats off to Catherine. Incredible feat, 4 consecutive in a row. Next item I have is DHS is ready to vaccine our children ages 12 to 15. And our Health Department, Dr. Davies' message weekly COVID release on May the 11th. Dare County Department of Health and Human Services provided residents with the potential timeline for offering COVID vaccines to children ages 12 to 15. And look forward to that. More of our children getting vaccinated, and that's certainly a plus for us. And certainly last but not least, Danny, one of your folks from Hatteras Island, Larry Ogden, incredible.
Yeah, good man.
Received the prestigious North Carolina's Governor's Medallion Award for volunteer service. Larry is president of the Hatteras Island Community Emergency Response Team, High Cert. He was awarded the prestigious North Carolina Governor's Medallion Award for volunteer service. Ogden was honored for receiving the award, which is in North Carolina's highest volunteer honor, during the 2021 Governor's Medallion Award ceremony that was held. They had to hold it virtually in Raleigh at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May the 12th. He was awarded that from the governor. Larry has a can-do attitude and an untiring commitment to his community, and it can be seen in each and every day in the success of Hatteras Island Community Emergency Response Team. And under Larry's steadfast leadership, as the only Hatteras Island CERT president, the team of more than 40 volunteers is fully trained and equipped to help their neighbors before and during and after an emergency. So Larry's selection as a Medallion Award winner was truly well-deserved. And I know you know him personally, Danny, and that's quite an honor to receive that award.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So with that being said, County Manager, that completes the chairman's comments.
Yes, sir. Item 2 on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If you have public comment this evening and you've not signed up, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. When I do, please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. There's a green light that comes on when your time begins. The yellow light will come on when you have about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, you need to conclude your remarks. On the sign-up sheet, I have Lilius Morrison.
Welcome this evening, Ms. Morrison.
Good evening, Chairman Woodard. Good evening, Commissioners. I come before you again as a representative of the Northern Dare Library Committee, which was convened some time ago, pre-COVID, by the town of Southern Shores. And at that time, we requested that you positively consider a branch library for the northern part of the county. And of course, it went on hold for obvious reasons. And now our committee has reassembled and we are resurrecting our request for a northern Dare County branch, a northern branch of the Dare County Library. So this is a brief update. First of all, we want to assure you that the strong interest continues from all the people on the North Beaches, Southern Shores, Duck, Martins Point, and we have the support of their councils and committees. Secondly, the need and use is very strong, partly because of the COVID-19 impact. Many people have moved from the cities to Dare County. That has been obvious from the real estate records. The rental companies are complaining that people are taking their houses and living here year-round. And so the impact has been to increase the number of year-round residents in this county. People, both older people, seniors, and people with families. Interaction with these new residents indicates that they too are eager for a convenient local library branch with the varied and multiple facilities which a well-rounded library offers. And again, as we said last time, the Dare County Library offers a full spectrum of services beyond lending books, And this facility is very much welcomed by newcomers to the area. With the increase of at-home work, at-home research and learning, the need for access to a wide range of information has expanded. Further, with increasing traffic on the roads, Northern Dare residents, old and new, would save time and generate less carbon pollution by having a branch of the library much closer than central Kill Devil Hills. I'm happy to confirm that Town Bank has maintained its offer of premises at 6 Juniper Trail. If you will recall, they offered it for $1 a year. So we are blessed that we still have that opportunity. And some members of our committee are researching a possible increase for the interior upfit. There might be a modest, we had estimated 150 to 175,000, and since we've given a range, we are looking to keep within that range for the capital upfit. And we are researching that with local builders. So we still have the premises in this central location. And so this evening, gentlemen, the committee, we are asking you to approve the concept and the possibility of a northern branch of the Dare County Library based in Southern Shores. And we're asking you to place this project in your funding and budget schedule. We know times are always challenging, but possibly there are sources of funding, and maybe with the federal offers to local governments, there might be some avenue to explore in that direction. Our committee is willing and eager to work with anybody in the county to pursue funding possibilities. So thank you, gentlemen, for listening to our request. If you had any questions, I may have a minute or so left of my time.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Morrison. We appreciate you coming back before us. I know it's been a long year, and so our board will certainly take this in consideration, and we'll have some additional conversation.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here tonight like to speak at public comment? Any other public comment? Any public comment from Buxton?
No comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we would close public comment and go to item 3 on the agenda. And Dave Halleck is here to give us a report from the National Park Service.
Welcome this evening, Superintendent Halleck. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Great to see you all. Hi, Rob. Thanks for the opportunity to come and provide an update tonight. And before I get into my
Hi, Dave. Sorry. I had to get off mute.
That's okay. Before I begin the presentation, I really can't tell you how proud I am to be a part of the county here. Over the last year, it was really hard, as you know. We were very fortunate to have the leadership from Chairman Woodard and to have support from Dare County keeping us together. The Park Service, all of the northern beaches, the mayors. This was a really tough go. And the leadership to keep us connected, to allow for great communications and coordination on everything from the signs we put up and the messaging. It's amazing what Dorothy and our staff did was really a model from my perspective. And then to have the extremely strong support from public health and, for a period of time find out that we are leading the state of North Carolina in vaccinations. It's really been amazing. And while it's not just good for me, it's good for the National Park Service. It's living in a place like this. This is the type of place that people want to come to. It's the type of community they want to be a part of. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
So we're going to get started. Just a quick overview of the National Parks of Eastern North Carolina. I know you're all very familiar with this, but we've got Wright Brothers Memorial, which you've been to many times in Kill Devil Hills, Fort Raleigh National Historic Site on the north end of Roanoke Island, Cape Hatteras National Seashore, and Cape Lookout National Seashore. You should be proud. The two seashores in Eastern North Carolina make up more than 40% of the coastline of the state, providing access to folks from all over the country and all over the world. And the last park that's part of our group is called Moores Creek National Battlefield. It's about 30 miles northwest of Wilmington. We share certain positions. We have IT staff that support staff in all these 5 parks, and it really helps us be more efficient and get the best value out of our employees. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the parks here in Dare and Hyde County. And so last year we had more than 3 million visits to the parks. Absolutely amazing in the middle of COVID-19. We had 117,000 overnight campers to our 4 campgrounds. We issued 91 special use permits, and the majority of those were weddings, so people still got married despite the pandemic. 29 commercial use authorizations. These are business permits to work in the park. We reached over 1,100 distance learning students from all around the country. We had 533 waterfowl hunters that checked in at Body Island and hunted in our blinds in the north area of the seashore. And we issued a record 47,000, almost 48,000 off-road vehicle permits. In 2012, when this program started, we issued 27,000. So just remarkable growth in the program, and obviously this is a popular place to be. So how do we do all this? We're maintaining about 80 year-round staff now. If we're lucky, we're able to bring in another 80 staff during the summertime. We have thousands of volunteers, and we have a busy program. Oftentimes, visitors don't realize we have a full federal law enforcement program. Last year, I'm sure Sheriff Dowdy can attest to the fact that it was very busy. Our law enforcement staff received almost 3,000 dispatch calls for help from anything that you can imagine, and took a lot of trips to jail as well to deal with some of the challenges that we had, which was really a challenge for all the local law enforcement agencies. We have 5 visitor centers, 200 public toilets. We have 2 water treatment plants. We'd love to get off those water treatment plants and buy water from Dare County, so that is a goal for us. We have 60 septic systems, 84 parking lots, 230 buildings, 3 airports, and last year we removed 270 tons of trash. We continue to be able to do this work with a lot of generous funding from Congress. To make ends meet, it takes about $15 million. About 10 comes from Congress every year, and then we bring in another $5 million from some of the fees that we charge. So interestingly, we'll talk a little bit about the visitor numbers over the last year at the 3 parks up here. In 2020 at Wright Brothers National Memorial, we had one of the lowest levels of visitation ever. And that probably blows you away, because anybody that was on the bypass would say, how could that be? The beach was crowded. For some reason, folks did not come to Wright Brothers. They were happy to be in the Outer Banks. They were happy to be in their rental home. They were happy to be on the beach, but they did not want to come to the location of the first flight. Similarly, you might think that last bar, 2020 for Fort Raleigh National Historic Site's an error, and it's not. It was the lowest level of visitors that we've ever had at Fort Raleigh. Some of it was due to our partners not holding the Lost Colony for the summer, but not all of it. It just appeared to be a place that the public was not either aware of or interested in coming to. In sharp contrast to all of that, yet again, Cape Hatteras National Seashore had the highest level of visitor activity in 17 years. We had 2.645 million visits. These are not hour visits, 2-hour visits. These are people mostly staying for a week in a rental home or a hotel or a campground. It was absolutely remarkable. And I have a little footnote here. Out of 423 national park units, from American Samoa to northern Maine to Alaska to Puerto Rico, the seashore was the 22nd busiest in 2020. Wow. We had a lot of interesting things go on. We had a scalloper that had some problems near Oregon Inlet, washed up on the beach and became a very highly photographed site. We had lines to wait to get into our visitor centers. We had off-road vehicle permittees that had never actually shifted the knob from 2H to 4H and had some issues. We have a new, very popular area at Fort Raleigh down Pier Road called Etheridge Point, where folks enjoyed the beach like they never did before. We had, as we talked before, a very high level of off-road vehicle use at the seashore, and we had an extended camping season. We kept the Ocracoke and Oregon Inlet campgrounds open all year, and we will plan to continue to do that. And that happens really as a result of volunteers. We have volunteers cleaning the restrooms and helping clean charcoal out of grills and check our campers in. So not only do our staff want to work here, people from around the country want to come and stay and help serve their national parks as volunteers. We had a lot of virtual experiences when we couldn't have in-person programs. We continue to have lots of the same challenges we've always had. You're all very well aware of the ocean overwash situations that we have and the erosion. This is actually the original Cape Hatteras Lighthouse fence foundation that was uncovered at the lighthouse grounds from erosion over the summer. So I'm really, really pleased. Just 5 days ago, with the great cooperation from County Manager Outen and about 10 other cooperating agencies, we completed a sediment management framework. Sounds technical, sounds difficult to understand. Really, this is a beach nourishment programmatic plan. This is all of the environmental compliance that is necessary for the park to now be able to issue permits to Dare County, Hyde County, NCDOT, as long as things don't change for the next 20 years, and be able to issue them quickly, which, as you know, in the case of something like an island breach, can be very, very important. So we appreciate all of the support and the partnership from Bobby and all the other cooperating agencies. Our regional director, 5 days ago, issued what's called a record of decision, selecting this plan and implementing it. So thank you for the partnership, and I think this is a great thing for all of us. It's particularly a great thing because with sea level rise, which actually right now is equivalent to about 1.75 feet per 100 years, we are seeing and continuing to see some unprecedented challenges. So this photograph, so this is the morning, I should know the exact date, it was the day after Hurricane Florence 2018. Bobby and Bob called me and said, we got to go down to Hatteras Island. We're meeting Danny on the bench outside Frisco Rod and Gun. We picked him up and we drove down to the old site of the Frisco Pier. So that's Danny standing on a pile of asphalt. And I was telling them that before this storm, we had plans to repave the parking lot, build a restroom and a shower facility. And I think we all looked at each other and said, you know, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So what I want to share with you is...
I got to have some fun, Dave. Go back.
Yeah, we don't need to
Go back to that. I don't recall seeing that sub scope come up out the water when we were down there.
Yeah,
I see that.
Do you, Danny?
I don't remember it.
So we're taking all these analyses and these decisions to the next level. We've got some great science that we've been working on. So what I'm showing you in this graphic here that looks very technical is not. Those black lines, the solid black line is before Hurricane Dorian, the dashed black line is Hurricane Dorian. That's the high tide line. That's basically where the beach ends and the water starts. The yellow line is a forecast based on erosion rates of where the high tide line is going to be if erosion stays the same way it's been the last few decades. And then the red line behind it is where the shoreline is going to be in 20 years if the erosion rate stays the same. We feel confident it'll probably stay the same and might even accelerate. So it's hard to see from this graphic, but what you're basically seeing is that high tide line would have been in 10 years from now, or will be most likely in the middle of that parking area. So we said, well, wait a minute, we have 45 parking spaces there. We need the parking, let's make a better decision. We went down the street 4/10 of a mile. This is the Frisco Beach access. We did the same analysis, and you can see here in 20 years, that parking area there should have no problem. So we added the 45 parking spaces there, less than a half a mile away. We have the same capacity, same ability to accommodate visitors, but hopefully we're making a better investment with your tax dollars. So this is the approach that we're taking on a lot of our future projects. It's not to not do anything, it's just to do it smarter and to do it better. Oregon Inlet Fishing Center, we're getting very ready to wrap up a plan that will redevelop that entire property. Better circulation, better fueling. We'll be rebuilding the 1960s fishing center and fish cleaning station with our lessee. This is going to be a great thing for the park and for Dare County. We did an amendment to our management plan at Wright Brothers, and we're working with Outer Banks Forever and others to try to fund that amendment. It'll have better walking paths, a multi-use path around the property. Hopefully with the town of Kill Devil Hills, we'll have a multi-use path, Mary Helen, along the highway as well. Cape Hatteras Lighthouse restoration is moving. It's a challenge. Removing about 10 layers of paint that were applied continuously from 1870 has been really, really tough. We have an inside paint removal project that has already begun. We plan to initiate the full project here over the next 6 months, and it's really going to make this light station shine. Bonner Bridge Pier. So it's actually a pleasure to be here with Mike today, who's going to be presenting to you afterwards. I cannot tell you how much excellent technical advice we've received from Mike on how to open this pier. So 1,000 feet of the Bonner Bridge Fishing Pier, which by the way is entirely on Cape Hatteras National Seashore, is being gifted to us from NCDOT. I should say that differently. We're going to be managing it cooperatively with NCDOT. They will continue to make sure that the structure is safe, and we will manage the visitor experience on it. So that railing is a brand new railing. It'll go around the entire structure. We're putting trash cans on there. We'll be fixing up the parking area and have a new path from the parking out to the pier. The pier will be free. It'll be open 24 hours a day, and we're really excited. I cannot wait to go out there with all of you and to see the view from the end of this pier is breathtaking. You feel like you're surrounded by Oregon Inlet.
So will there be a formal opening of that?
We will do a formal opening, and you'll all be invited. Ocracoke Light Station, we're in the process of trying to figure out what to do with this light station. This light station was badly flooded during Hurricane Dorian, and it's time for us to elevate the structures, maybe even consider moving the light station. We've got all the ideas on the table right now. What we end up with will really be a matter of what we hear from the public and what the technical evaluation shows, but we have some real challenges there. From a wildlife perspective, our beaches continue to be some of the most pristine on the East Coast. We had 228 sea turtle nests and protected almost 500 shorebirds last year. It was a pleasure to work with all of you on not only the 150th anniversary of Dare County, but the 150th anniversary of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. And if you haven't had a chance to see the video that Skip and the county put together, it's really fantastic and just a great way to share this important heritage with the rest of the world. We have a new mobile app for our visitors. They can just find out all about the seashore on their smartphones. And I wanted to show this to you. Can you start this video for me? I don't think I can do it from here. I want to show you the amount of change we're starting to see at the seashore. That's Cape Point from 2007 until today. And if this works. All right, we broke it. At least I didn't do it this time. Here you, okay. Well, and can you play this one for me as well? A lot of change at Cape Point. I'll show you someday. This video shows the change in the shoreline. The shoreline has migrated almost 3,500 feet to the north. Same thing. So what you would have seen here was a bomb exploding on the beach. No year at Cape Hatteras Seashore is complete without a bomb. This is one that had to be detonated by the Navy on site, but it was a busy year. So real quick, where are we going this year? We're using technology to try to keep our staff in the field. All of our offices where you used to buy offer vehicle permits, our campgrounds, all of that is done online now. Those same employees are now out in the field. They're educating visitors. They're preventing small problems from becoming big problems. We feel it's critical to have boots on the ground and be able to manage this record level of visitation. Our continued focus for the next 3 years is recovery from Hurricane Dorian, revitalizing the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse area, adapting to a changing coast, improving Wright Brothers and modernizing our campgrounds and improving our housing for staff. That's been a big challenge as well. I know housing is important for everybody, and we're trying to make sure it's good so that when our staff go home, they're able to rest and be comfortable and want to come back. So thank you so mumuch for the opportunity to present, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. Any questions of Superintendent Hallett?
Just an observation there. I mean, that's easy math, but that the Cape Hatteras National Seashore is in the top 5% of national parks nationwide. Is that accurate?
In terms of the visitation in
Yeah.
2020, yeah.
I mean,
in terms of the numbers, yeah, we were
Top 5.
incredible
Top
levels.
5%.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
really is.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, item 4 on the agenda, Michael Rimmage is here. He's got a report on Jennette's Pier.
Good evening, Mike. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Good evening, Chairman Woodard. How are you? It's
Very
nice to
good.
be with you all, Commissioners. Nice to be with you all this evening. And I'd like to thank Commissioner House, actually, for making the arrangements for me to be here so quickly. I truly appreciate it. And the reason I need to be here so quickly is thanks to the pandemic, we've been sort of looking forward to Jennette's Pier's 10th anniversary since our rebirth in 2011. And although the Pier's been around for 82 years, kind of here to celebrate with you all the fact that we have something that feels a little more permanent now. It feels like it's going to be with us for at least another 82, if not 100 years. On this Friday, May 21st, 2021, is the 10th anniversary of our grand reopening in 2011. And I'd just like to share some brief facts with you about the last 10 years of Jennette's Pier. But first, I'd like to thank Dare County, thank the town of Nags Head for the continued support of Jennette's Pier. You know, from the beginning, you've all been with us. You helped us acquire the property in 2002. You helped the Aquarium Society receive that grant. And your support in the construction of Jennette's Pier from 2009 to 2011 will not be forgotten. Thank you very much. All right, so in that time, we've seen nearly 1.75 million visitors to Jennette's Pier. And these are the folks that actually come into the Pier House, walk out on the pier, fish, sightsee, enjoy their wedding event, pay for paid educational programming. We estimate, we don't know exactly, but we estimate between 4.5 and 5 million people have actually visited the property in that time. We've entertained nearly 60,000 North Carolina school students from 55 different counties in the last 10 years. Almost all of these kids come in on field trips, some from as far away as Cherokee, North Carolina, to visit Jennette's Pier. Some of them, it's the first time they've ever seen the Atlantic Ocean. We make sure they catch a fish. We make sure they learn about renewable energy. We make sure they learn to love the ocean as much as we do here. In that 10 years, we've entertained 2,500 summer campers, and we've provided more than 150 scholarships to those campers, especially the ones that are in dire need and just need that little extra something. We've helped more than 500 couples celebrate their wedding nuptials. In our work with the Marine Mammal Stranding Network in the Outer Banks, we've actually provided more than 50 responses to strandings of seals, whales, dolphins, and we've given more than 250 volunteer hours to the network. Now, these figures that you see here are estimates that I've made based on an economic impact study that we had done about 5 or 6 years ago. Since the time we've opened, we can estimate, and these are conservative, that Jennette's Pier has generated $53 million in economic output in the county. Off-site visitor spending is over $100 million, directly attributable to the fact that Jennette's Pier is here. $20 million in rental event spending outside of what we generate on our own in Dare County in the past 10 years, and $3 million in state and local tax revenue has been generated because Jennette's Pier is here in the Outer Banks. All right. Those are just some highlights of the past 10 years. And now I'd like to kind of share with you some new and innovative things that are happening at Jennette's Pier that you'll see coming up in the next year. This is all in the area of science and research, and I cannot take credit for this. This is a very strong partnership that we have with the UNC Coastal Studies Institute that started back in 2003 when we first started operating the old Jennette's Pier and put up a few observing stations, ocean observing stations. Dr. Mike Muley and I met then, and we started to hatch a few plans, and this is sort of the fruition of those plans after all this time. I'd like to play a short video if I could. This will explain the Waves to Water prize, and this is a big deal because a year from now, this prize competition is coming to Dare County. Is it the same thing as Dave? All right, well, Dave, now we know we can't do videos anymore. All right, if we were able to watch the video, this would explain what the Waves to Water prize is. And basically, it's an international competition that's funded by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Labs. And the idea is to spur innovation, development, and potentially commercialization of marine renewable energy wave-powered desalination devices. This is important in potential disaster areas. It's important in off-the-grid communities, places like Ocracoke, places like the Outer Banks, where we may need one day to provide clean drinking water to our communities that we don't use the normal electrical grid for. So the Department of Energy has created a five-stage competition, and let me see if I can, there you go. We've been through the first 3 stages. During the first stage, we were working very closely with the Coastal Studies Institute and the National Renewable Energy Labs to demonstrate our capabilities here in Dare County. The Coastal Studies Institute has intimate research knowledge. They have the ability to work on the water. They know how to deploy devices in the ocean. They know how to retrieve those devices. They have that expertise. At Jennette's Pier, what we have is we have the research platform. We're a high visibility. We have a lot of visitors. We have the outreach possibilities for education, and we can do all of this in the public eye right there from the pier and from the beach. You'll be able to see it all. So in April of 2022, between 4 and 6 competitors who make it to the final stage will actually be deploying their devices off either side of the end of Jennette's Pier in the blue areas that you see. Those are the permitted research areas. They will be competing for 5 days. The one that produces the cleanest and the most drinking water from seawater that has been created by wave-powered energy will win the competition. The final prize is $500,000. It's a total of, I believe, 3.5. I can't remember if it's on there or not. $1 million in total over the 5 stages. We won the honor of hosting this competition by basically going out and asking for it. We went to them. We said that we were the ideal location for this. They looked at places on the West Coast. They looked at places on the East Coast. And fortunately, they chose Jennette's Pier for this competition and the Coastal Studies Institute to operate it. All right, so in preparation for all of this, we did a test article deployment and retrieval from April 19th to April 23rd, just a month ago. We had to prove the concept that we were capable of doing this. And what you see in front of you are several pictures of how we'll accomplish this competition when it comes to our doors. We have on the left there a spider crane, which is a really small 2-foot wide thing that once you get it to the end of the pier, it kind of opens up. It's capable of putting, as you can see, a Zodiac, jet skis, and the test article deployment buoy in the water from the pier. Ideally, when we run the competition next year, we'll have one on either side of the end of the pier, and we'll be deploying devices over this side, pulling them into their locations, hooking them up, running the water hoses and electrical lines back to the pier, and then operating the competition for 5 days. The competitors will be there on site. They'll be monitoring their equipment, and we hope that a lot of people show up and enjoy this, and we hope that you all show up and enjoy it as well. And then there's some more big news in the area of scientific research. Once again, full credit to the Coastal Studies Institute. They're the ones that are leading this charge. Jennette's Pier is their research platform through an agreement that we have with them, and we are very proud to be part of the new Atlantic Marine Energy Center. This past December, the Department of Energy announced the creation of this center. Over the next 4 years, the award originally was for $5 million to be shared between a consortium, university-led consortium from University of New Hampshire, of course the Coastal Studies Institute, Lehigh University, and Stony Brook University. That award, originally at $5 million, immediately was elevated to $10 million. So over the next 4 years, these 4 institutes and universities will be sharing that $10 million. And what that means for Jennette's Pier is significant infrastructure upgrades at the pier as a wave energy test center, since we are listed in the Sandia National Labs Wave Energy Test Center catalog. It also means full accreditation of the Pier as a wave energy test center, and hopefully more research projects that come to the Outer Banks empowering the blue economy. So our goals, we feel like we're finally achieving the goals that we set out almost 20 years ago. And that's what I have for you today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, if you have any, about Jennette's Pier.
Very nice, Mike. Always good to hear updates and what's going on at Jennette's Pier. Is that any commissioner have any questions of Mike you want to share?
Mike, I did want to point out, it's just fascinating, the research that's being done. And to have that research here in Dare County is an attribute to not only yourself, but also the staff at Jennette's Pier and the Coastal Institute Studies.
Thank you very much. Yep, we look forward to it. We hope we're creating a new niche economy in Dare County, so we'll see how things go.
Thank you again, Mike, for
Thank
being
you all.
here, and we appreciate you, what y'all are doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Chairman, item 5 on the agenda is some amendments to Chapter 160D of the Dare County, based on 160D to the Dare County Code of Ordinances. We've talked about this before. The legislature, a year or two ago, rewrote Chapter 160D. They didn't do many substantive changes, but they rewrote the way and the processes. We now have been in the process over the years to rewrite our ordinances to comply with 160D. Those ordinances have to be in place and approved by you all by July, or by default, the state statutes become our ordinances. And so Donna has been working diligently for a while. In your packet, you've got like 78 pages, I think, of changes. She was here. I sent her home because I didn't think you wanted her to go through 78 pages tonight. I thought you might need more time to read it and look at it. Really what you're here for tonight is, before we can move forward, is to set a public hearing. The request is for the public hearing at our second meeting in June. I think that's the 21st at 5 o'clock. At that public hearing, Donna will sort of take you through this, explain it to you. We'll have the public hearing. From what's said at the public hearing and from whatever questions you have, she can answer those. And if you're then satisfied to move forward, you would then approve it at that meeting. And so for the public who's out here looking at it, you have them now until the 21st to review those 78 pages and share whatever comment you have with us. There are, I think, a few things, and she'll point them out to you, that were old vestiges that maybe 160D didn't require us to change, but to bring them to modern times, we changed them anyway. It was a good time to make those kind of changes. There's a couple of those in there that, again, they aren't big deals, but they are in there, and she'll explain all that to you at the next meeting as well. So what I'm looking for now is simply a motion to set a public hearing.
Is there a motion to set the public hearing for the 21st at 5 p.m.? Is a motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobin. Seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, item 6 on the agenda is a resolution for you to adopt with regard to the Hatteras Inlet Maintenance and Permit Modification. We bring Ken Wilson's firm on board to sort of be the project manager, if you will, for the technical stuff. Dustin manages the project, but Ken does all the technical work on that project, and has been doing that for a while. We can get a grant from the state to pay for a portion of that, and this resolution is a resolution they require in order for us to get that grant. So it's here for you to approve. It's something that we've done previously. I won't read the resolution unless you would like for me to, but it simply allows us to move forward with that grant. Dustin's here, I think. Yeah. Did I need to add anything? Is that? No, sir. Okay.
All right, the pleasure of the board.
I move.
Second. Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve the grant submission to DEQ, approve the resolution for the grant submission, and approve county manager to execute the contract with CPE and grant when approved by DEQ after July 1st of this year. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then similarly, next on your agenda is, this is a resolution requesting the Army Corps of Engineers to amend the existing federal authorization to add the Hatteras Bar to the Hatteras and Rollinson federal authorization. As you know, and as we've talked about many times, Hatteras and Rollinson channels are federally authorized, and therefore the Corps can use federal funds and matching funds to do that. But to get from those channels to the ocean, the Hatteras Bar is not a federal channel. And so what that requires is a whole litany of things to be able to get the Corps in there. And so there's been an effort for a number of years to try to get the bar included in the federal authorization. We're at the point where that might now be possible. And this resolution is your resolution making that request so that we can get that paperwork in, that you all approve it, you all support it, and then our congressmen and the people that are working on this can help us get that done much sooner than it normally takes, which is a good thing for the folks that try to use that inlet. And once again, Dustin's here for that. Dustin, do you have anything to add to that?
No, sir, that's all correct.
Okay.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by the vice chairman to approve staff to submit a request under section 7001 of the 2014 Water Resources Reform and Development Act, adding the Hatteras Bar to the Hatteras-Rollinson federal authorization. I believe it was seconded by Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion?
I would like to say something.
Yes, Commissioner.
This has been something that's been a problem for a really long time, and this has been discussed, and it literally does take an act of Congress to authorize that to be a channel. But something else that, politically speaking, we need to get the Coast Guard on board with this too, because that's a rescue outlet, an inlet for them to go with their rescue vessels. So we can do this, but then we've got more work to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, all right, any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is item 8, and it's labeled the old swimming hole. As you all know, we have a lifeguard stand at the old swimming hole. We've had one there for a number of years. In your packet is a contract for renewing that for the coming season, which I'm going to ask you to approve with some modifications. But that contract is for a 5-year contract, and I've asked that we change it to a 1-year contract. And I've also asked them that we're going to put in the contract language that requires them to keep account of the number of people that use that swimming hole during the season. Anecdotally, it's not used very often, and we spend a considerable amount of money to have a lifeguard there. When I go out there doing my rounds, I see the lifeguard's not doing anything wrong. He's sitting on the front of his car looking at his phone because there's nobody there swimming, and he's killing time. So I'm not criticizing the lifeguard. Similarly, we have some problems there where it drops off. We've spent some money to put some buoys out there. They didn't stay, and as we speak, we've spent some money to put some pilings out there that we can tie off the buoys to create a line past which you shouldn't swim to try to keep it safe. And so we want some statistics. If we find that it's not using, then next year, before we renew it, we'll have some actual numbers. It's not going to be anecdotal, and you all can make a decision whether to renew it. If not, if we choose not to, then there are probably other areas in the county that this money would be better spent and we would save more lives, and we would just close the swimming hole and make it off limits to swimming if that's what the numbers show, and then put the lifeguards, for example, in Rodanthe off of our beach access in Rodanthe or somewhere else in the county. So I tell you all that to set the stage, but to also ask you to approve it with the modifications to a 1-year and with the approval to require the head count.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve the contract with authority to the county manager to sign once his approved edits are completed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
In your packet, you have a budget amendment to budget the one-time spending that we're doing that we talked about in the workshop. In your packet, you have a list of that spending. I believe it's the same list that we had in the workshop.
I made one correction, added something I missed.
Which was the,
Just $5,000 in GIS equipment.
Yeah.
and so those one-time expenditures are from the funds that we saved in the fund balance because we cut the budget so far last year, and in addition, we had, revenues in excess of what we expected, and it allowed us to do these things now as one-time purchases rather than string them out over a number of years like we would normally do in the general fund. So it's good for us that we're able to do this, but I need your approval for that budget amendment before we can move forward with it. Any questions for me or for Dave?
I'm sorry, just one?
Yeah, go ahead,
Do we need to add anything on the GIS, or modify it, or are we good to go?
It's in the budget.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the budget amendment?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner House to do so. Is there a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Jim, that brings us to item 10, and I'll now present to you the 2022 recommended budget. I'll come up to the podium.
Each of you have this book.
Yeah.
It's got basically the stuff we covered in the budget workshop, plus the other information we normally include. On the very last page, it gives the web page address of where the detail is by department, and we also emailed that to you this afternoon. And I think Cheryl put it in your Dropbox as well.
Okay. Commissioner Ross, make sure you get that email.
I'm looking, I had my packet open to the package that Cheryl had sent out, but Dave, you sent it to me. There it is. I found it. I have it, and I have opened it. Got it.
And so as I go through the budget, and there'll be something I'll say that's in item 10 of the notes. That's where you go to that webpage, and those notes with a more detailed explanation appear so that you can look at that between now and when we have our public hearing on the 7th before you adopt the budget. So you'll have that. And in the meantime, if you have questions, you can always get with me or with Dave.
You're getting ready to do this PowerPoint, correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross, do you have a copy of that PowerPoint?
I do. I have it open. It's County of Dare 2022 Manager's Recommended Budget.
Yeah.
And Plan 2023 Budget. Yes?
Okay, good.
Yep.
I'm going to let Dave do the clicking of the slides as we go through this. So I hereby present to you the recommended Dare County budget for fiscal year 2021 and 22 in the amount of $177,886,587, with the general fund being at $112,706,798 of that amount. The budget is balanced and is in compliance with the North Carolina Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, and is in line with the priorities and direction given by the Board of Commissioners through the year and in our workshops. The purpose of the county's annual budget process is to develop a fiscally responsible plan that enables the county to accomplish priorities that are established by the board. At a prior retreat, the board provided the following strategic focus areas: long-term financial planning for capital. Under that, to maintain capital planning and stabilization of available funding through the use of a capital investment fund and a long-term capital planning and debt affordability model. Economic development, to continue beach nourishment efforts under economic development and address the demand for future projects and determine additional project prioritization criteria utilizing beach nourishment and debt affordability models. And to continue efforts toward affordable and workforce housing through zoning and planning changes and various projects with the assistance of the Development Finance Initiative of the UNC School of Government. The next strategic focus area was education, to continue the partnership with the Dare County Schools using an agreed upon formula for local current expense and the Capital Investment Fund to adequately address future capital needs. To expand the College of the Albemarle Dare County campus through a new capital project and utilization of a county local scholarship fund. Another focus area was human resources. You directed us to continue to follow the recommendations of the salary study, which was implemented in 2018 and 2019. You directed us to maintain all current levels of services and to maintain a minimum unassigned fund balance in the general fund of 21% of the general fund revenues. The recommended budget includes no property tax increases. It preserves a high quality of service delivery to the citizens, the property owners, and the visitors, and it meets all the goals of the board. The budget document also includes a recommended planned 2023 budget and a return to our biennial budget planning. As you know, because of COVID, we did not do a biennial budget in last year. We're back to that process this year. It is a planned budget because you're not allowed to adopt the budget a year in advance, but we believe it'll be close to our budget. We do know there is some work to be done on it, but not much. So that'd be a planned budget, and that's in your packet. Comparison of the 2021 and 2022 must consider the uncertainty and the then expected negative effects of revenues from COVID-19 on the 2021 adopted budget, where the total budget decreased by 5.59% and the general fund budget decreased by 1.53% from 2020. Those negative effects were short-lived for Dare County, with higher than normal tourism levels beginning in June of 2020 and continuing to date. The 2022 budget and the planned 2023 budget assumes a return to normal tourism and economic activities levels. As we discussed in the workshop, we're budgeting using 2019 revenues and expenses as a base. We've kind of discounted 2020 because the revenues were an anomaly that we don't expect, and we've not used any of those excess funds to create recurring expenses that would require large budget increases into the future. The following table shows the original 2020 budget, the original 2021 budget, the requested 2022 budget, and the manager's 2022 budget. When we get down to, I think it's around slide 11, we're going to also have the comparison between the manager's budget and the 2021 budget with all the amendments that we did during the year, just to show you the change from the amended budget to the planned budget. In the past, the capital improvement plans were completed after our budget was adopted.
We're having difficulty with the PowerPoint that just keeps going all over the place. That somebody needs to keep up with your comments with respects to the slides that's on the screen. Can we go to 2022 general fund budget request?
Yeah, we should be at slide 5. Slide 5 is on my screen. It says 2022 manager's budget. Is that on your screen?
No.
No.
It is.
There it is.
No, it's still not there. It's the next slide.
Okay, well, this is the slide we're at. We'll go. So now you're back up one. There you go. That's where we are right now. Okay. In the past, the capital improvement plans were completed after the budget was adopted. For the first time for Dare County, the manager's 2022 budget includes the recommended capital improvement plan in the capital investment fund, the water CIP, the water fund, and is the reason for the manager's total budget exceeding the total requested budget. You have that table there in front of you. Those are all of the various funds and the proposed manager's budget for those funds. In the detail in your package, you have those broken out year by year and compared to 2021 and 22 versus the manager's budget as well. Now, next slide, Dave. So our requested budget. After the budget requests were submitted by departments and outside agencies, the requested expenditures exceeded project revenues, creating a general fund budget deficit of $3.6 million. So that 3.6 was 3.6 more in requests than we had in revenues projected, and those were the things we had to pare down in order to balance the budget. The driving factors for the requested deficit were we had $2.4 million in expenditures requested in increases in the non-departmental areas, $2.2 million requested increase in transfers to other funds, a almost $9 million or 14 requested increase by emergency medical services, $719,000 requested increase by Parks and Recreation, a $712,000 request by the Dare County Schools, $328,000 requested by the Health Department, $212,000 requested by Social Services, $210,000 requested by the Sheriff's Office, and $208,000 requested by Communications. Revenue growth significantly reduced that request, so our revenues grew, and so we had some funds to meet some of those, and from normal growth and from the growth created by the 2021 budget revenue decreases. So we were able to bridge that gap and pare some of those downs and balance the budget. So now we'll go to that budget. The recommended budget does not include a property tax increase. The property tax rate will remain at 40.05 cents. Details of the manager's recommendations are found on the following pages. The following expenditure chain makes up 99% of the general fund increase of $5.6 million. Those expenditures in the budget are $1.9 million to restore the transfer to the capital investment fund to the board policy level, $1.4 million in all salaries and fringes for a 2% COLA and reinstatement of the merit pool, both of which occurred mid-year in 2021. $713,000 in emergency medical services for continuation of the staffing plan and to begin staffing for the planned additional Kitty Hawk station. And you'll note that's about half of their request, and Jenny and Dave and I were able to work through that to make that work for her and for the EMS department. $878,000 for a 2% COLA, which is non-departmental. $712,000 to the Dare County Schools, including $660,000 to increase local current expenses per the funding formula. $549,000 to reinstate the merit pool. $370,000 for an increase in the employer retirement system contribution rate. $294,000 for an increase in the general fund share of the retiree medical, which was non-departmental. $248,000 for insurance charges, mainly from an increase in property insurance costs. $150,000 in non-departmental increase to the contingency line. $128,000 in COA funding for additional operating costs for the new facility under construction. And then we have an expenditure decrease for the health department of $1.8 million, mainly from the potential but not finalized sale of the home health and hospice certificate of need. When you move down to the revenues, prior to the effects of COVID, the results of 2020 to date were similar to 2019. The worst revenue effects from COVID-19 occurred in April and May of 2020. However, since June of 2020, Dare County has seen a nearly unprecedented visitation and economic activity as demonstrated by the following table, and that's the table that you have before you. You can see those large percentages. You can see, you know what the numbers are. We've talked about those in the workshop, but revenue has been good during the year for us, as reflected in just about every one of those revenue producing lines. Growth rates for the remainder of 2021 and 22 are assumed at normal rates. I'm back to what I said before. We're not using these large growth rates to project growth into the future because they'll create recurring costs. When those revenue figures die, then you'll have those costs that still haunt you, and that didn't seem to be prudent. We've used historical growth rates dating from the last non-COVID-19 affected month. Thus, the 2022 projected revenues are budgeted to return to normal levels, and our whole budget is based on that presumption. The property tax base increased to a taxable value of $16.9 billion, 4.87% more than that of the prior year. A portion of that increase is from last year's tax assessor's assumed revaluation appeals value loss rate of 5%. However, our losses are actually occurring at approximately about 1.25%. Projected revenue is $67 million using the same tax rate of 40.05 cents and a collection rate of 99.25 cents, which is up from last year's rate of 98%. Sales tax revenue, the local A39 and 42 taxes are projected with annual growth rates of 3.63, which is from 2019 actuals. The statewide Article 40 tax rate is projected using the NC League of Municipalities projection for 2021 at 8.71% over 2020 and 22, and 2022 an additional 2.5% over 2021. On the oxy tax rate, the tax or revenues, the tax is projected for 2022 at 7.5% over the 2019 actual. Just some comparisons for our rate. The average county property tax rate in North Carolina for 2021 was 68 cents with a low of 31 cents and a high of $1. Dare County at 40.05 cents was the 5th lowest property tax rate. The effective tax rate is adjusted for the sales to assessment ratio for each county, and Dare County's effective tax rate for 2019, which is the latest date we have all the information, was 41.8 cents, which is ranked as the 7th lowest. The average for the effective rate was 67.86 with a low of 28.17 and a high of 1.01. Dare County's rate for 2022 of 40.05 cents would be the 5th lowest rate of the 2021 tax rates. So as you all have been doing for a number of years and working hard to do, we've kept our tax rate among the lowest in the state. You've got a graph here that shows you the statistics that we just went through, a bar graph, and you can see where Dare County falls in those numbers. The next slide, Dave, is the percent of sales tax changes, and you can see again what's happened with the spikes and growth in sales tax and over time. Next, we'll move down to the fund balance appropriation and projected fund balance. The 2022 appropriated fund balance of $2.7 million is within the board adopted policy of 3% or less of expenditures at 2.43%. 2020 fund balance has ended the year with a total of $48,189,716. The 2020 unassigned fund balance ended the year at $27,926,254, which was $6 million over the board policy of 21% of the general fund. Before any uses, which will be considered by the board on May 17th, which is tonight, unassigned fund balance is projected to be $30,705,000 at 27.81% of revenues and $7.5 million over the 21% policy amount. What you did a minute ago in those one-time things reduced that, correct, Dave? So that those percentages, those numbers will go down. On our expenditures, on personnel, good news is the health plan has no increases. Our health plan is healthy, and our rates did not go up, and our results are currently below expense levels of 2020. The success is because the county continues to aggressively promote its wellness program and has expanded the hours and coverage for its partnership with the Outer Banks Hospital for the Employee and Wellness Health Clinic and Program. Those things that we did several years ago are finally making a difference in our health insurance rates. No changes have been made in the health care structure, copays or deductibles. Employees will continue to have dual plan options, choosing between the traditional plan or a high deductible health savings account plan with the first $750 in costs funded by the plans. On the personnel side, there have been some position changes. There are several new positions in 2022 recommended budget. One in emergency management, 8 in EMS, 1 in facilities maintenance, and 1 in grounds maintenance. We're also going to add a youth center assistant in the budget. That was not in the workshop and is not shown in the documents you have. That'll be on a change list that will start tonight for change that'll be made between now and when you adopt the budget, but that is included. Dave and I have worked the numbers and we can make that work as well. And by doing that, it'll allow us also to promote the person who's at the youth center to be this person's supervisor, and the cost of that promotion will be in that in those dollars as well. And Dave and I have talked and we've covered that as well too. So in your final budget, we'll show both of those, though they're not in this one. At the time of the final budget, we'll have a change sheet for you to tell you any changes, including these. And so if there are other changes that come tonight or come between now and our June 7th public hearing, then we'll have those for you at that time.
And that's happening. We got our insurance renewal on Friday, and the property increase we were told to expect did not occur. So we're going to be flat.
I think some of that has to, the reasons that's up, obviously, is because we certainly have the animal shelter.
No, it's down.
It's down?
Well, it's actually going to be just about the same as this year. We were told to expect a 10% increase.
And it didn't happen?
And it didn't
Good.
happen.
So in this document and in our workshop, that was the number we were working off of, that 10% increase. Now, that 10% is not going to happen now, so those funds are back in the general fund.
Yeah. Well, I would think our TIVs would be up, our total insurance to values would be up because of obviously what we've added. So that's good.
Good, yeah, good news. Employee compensation, the board implemented a salary study prepared by Springstead during 2018 and 19. 2020 continued the recommendations of that study by including a merit pay and a cost of living pay adjustment, COLA. Due to the economics effect of COVID-19, no merit pay and COLA was included in the 2021 original budget, but due to the much better economic conditions than expecting during 2021, the merit pool and a 2% COLA was added to the 2020 budget during mid-year. The 2022 budget that you're now considering includes a merit pool of $549,000 and adds a 2% COLA effective July 1st, 2021 at a cost of $878,000. One last thing, in the workshop, we talked about compensation for the librarian, the county librarian, and we chose not at that time to do it. I think it was about a $6,000 number. We went back and we looked since the workshop, and we found also that we had not given a COLA or merit pay. He's a state employee that we fund a portion of, and he's not been included in any of our salary study stuff that we've done over time. And so I'm going to put that $6,000 that we chose not to do back in the budget because it's only right that he get what our other staff that we pay got as well. So that'll go back in, and it'll be on that same change sheet that we're talking about. On the capital side, in the information section, you have the capital outlays that are budgeted in the capital investment fund, which is discussed in a following section we'll get to in a minute. Insurance costs increased by $248,531, mainly from the EMS helicopter coverage, and that's the number that changed, right, Dave? That's the number that is not correct anymore because when we wrote this, that's what we thought, and then on Friday we got the news that those numbers had come down, so that number is not correct anymore. The retiree Medicare, a $294,000 increase for the general fund share of retiree Medicare costs is included in the non-departmental line. In the retirement system, the employer contribution rate increased again for 2022, resulting in an increase of $370,000. The state treasurer says he plans to increase that rate for each of the next 3 to 5 years. Dare County Schools, funding for local current expense used for using the school funding formula agreed upon in 2016 resulted in an increase of $660,000. Local funding for school operating costs then increases to $25 million, which is composed of $23.8 million for local current expense and $1.2 million, almost $1.3 million for county employed school nurses and school resource officers. The pupil enrollment projections for the schools are from NCDPI for the fall of 2020 are 5,296. The actual ADM for the fall of 2020 came in at 5,081, so it was a couple hundred, it was estimated about 200 students more than they actually had. For the NCDI projection for the fall of, is this supposed to be the fall of 2022, Dave?
No, 21.
21 was 5,320. For the last 11 years, that's 2012 through 2022, the local current expense funding, excluding school nurses and resource officers, and the 5-year annual, and excluding the 5-year annual deferred maintenance funding in 2015 through 2019, has increased 24.7% from 19 million to 23.8 million. Over the same period, pupils have increased by 9.35% from 4,865 to 5,320. And you have a graph, or a graph that shows you how we've spent funds with the schools. For our departments, in the animal shelter, we added an additional $81,000 for operating costs for the newly opened facility. The College of the Albemarle, the budget maintains $250,000 for local scholarships to the College of the Albemarle, which has been a board priority. The budget adds $128,835 for additional operating costs for the new 37,000 square foot facility that's under construction and will open next year. In elections, there's $61,888 included for additional election worker costs for municipal elections. We have multiple elections coming up in this budget cycle. In emergency management, the budget adds $71,000 for a new fire inspector position. That's to give them some help in the various inspections that we have to do for all the restaurants, motels, and the establishment. Steve just can't do it all, so this is a position that we talked about in the workshop. In emergency medical services, $713,000 is added for the continuation of the staffing expansion plan and to begin staffing for the planned additional Kitty Hawk Station in 2023. That amount, along with $183,000 moved from overtime pay, we cut overtime pay, Mr. Chairman, will increase the staff by 3 MTs, 2 paramedics, and 3 lieutenants. And there's another $96,000 added for the general operating cost increases. In facility maintenance, we added $58,000, and it's for a new maintenance position, maintenance worker position. Likely, we're going to have to add new positions in the future as we add facilities. We've been static with those numbers as we've been adding buildings, and we're getting to a point we don't have enough people to do the work that's going to need to be done. So that's likely something we're going to have to address in the future as well. But right now, that will suffice. In the health department, we had an expenditure decrease of $1.8 million, mainly from the potential but not finalized sale of the home health and hospice certificate of need. The budget effect of that increase would be about $293,000. If the sale is not approved, then the 2022 budget would have to be increased by that $293,000 to cover that. The 2022 budget also assumes that any required county 2022 expenditures will be funded and budgeted from the certificate of need sales, the sales proceeds. In human services, there's $67,000 added for the expansion of the county training program and additional training software. As we discussed at the workshop, we do very little training other than the initial training when the employee comes. And this will allow us to do ongoing training that has been much needed for a number of years to keep our employees up to speed as the rules and the laws and things change. And maybe it's just as important as keeping them up to speed as keeping us up to speed so that we don't have liability for failing to properly train our people. So that's in the works and will happen in the next budget year. Information technology, $99,000 is added for additional network security device services, a cybersecurity service, and GIS. And with the events over the last week, that's vitally critical to us, as you saw with what happened with the gas shortage. In non-departmental, we have an increase in the contingency of $150,000. and it's included to match the increase in the budget since the last contingency increase. The Parks and Recreation, the budget adds $108,000 for contracted services for maintenance of athletic fields and other operating costs. We found that it was cheaper to bring in those things than it was to hire the people necessary to do that, and so we're going to contract that out rather than add people. The sheriff, there was a $47,980 increase for additional part-time salaries and fringes. We had transfers to other funds. The transfer to the capital improvement fund increased by $1.9 million from the reduced 2021 transfer in order to restore the amount to the board policy at the 2009 funding level of $10,425. On the next slide, you'll see a pie chart that tells you where our money is spent. You'll notice that public safety and education, thank you, are the largest drivers. They represent over 50% of all the funds that we use in the county go to those two areas. Again, there's another graph. I don't know if that's in the, yeah, there's another graph, and that's a similar thing that sort of compares expenditures by functions much as that pie chart did, and it tells you the same thing, that public safety and education are our two largest, and then you come back and human services is our people, or is our next largest one. And then in your packet, and there's going to be a series of slides, 3 slides here, and this is a reconciliation that came up at the workshop that you all wanted to see, that basically took the mid-year changes, amendments to the budget, added them to the 2021 budget, and then compared 2022 proposed with 2021 as amended. And when you look at that, the total increase in the budget with the amendments that we did in mid-year is about $979,000. I'm not going to go through each one of those unless somebody wants to, but that's what that's done, and that gives sort of a truer reconciliation of growth from what we actually spent in 2021 to what we propose to spend in 2022. Now we'll move to the capital investment fund and the capital improvement plan. I'm going to take a drink here. The recommended 2020 budget included a significant change in budget structure by implementing the capital investment fund. The capital investment fund is a separately budgeted part of the general fund. For financial reporting purposes, the capital investment fund is consolidated into the general fund in the annual audit report, along with the disaster recovery and law enforcement officers separation allowance fund. And you can need to go look at the fund structure in the information section for a further explanation of the fund organizations. In the conjunction with establishment of the capital investment fund, the county and its financial advisor, DEC Associates, developed a capital planning and debt affordability model. And you all have seen both the fund and the model and seen how that works at previous workshops. Use of the capital investment fund separates budgeting from operations from that of capital. So we finally got our capital items and our operating items in different budgets so that we can manage them and you can track them and see them. With the 2020, the general fund budgeted for operations and the capital improvement fund budgeted for debt service, capital outlay, and the county capital improvement plans. The general fund's contribution to the capital investment fund was set at the 2019 net general fund costs for debt service and capital outlays of $10.4 million. It was reduced to $8.4 million in 2021 and is restored to $10.4 million in 2022. Model development is complete and included for board approval along with the 2022 capital improvements plan with the manager's 2022 recommended budget. The model also includes plans for major items: roof repairs, heating and air conditioning replacements, major equipment replacements, and major maintenance for the Dare Medflight Airbus helicopter. 2022 through 2026 capital improvement plan. The 2022 through 26 recommended CIP is shown in the capital improvement plans in the information section. 2021 has seen significant growth in county, local, and transfer taxes with a revenue increase of 104% through April over the same period of the prior year, and the prior year was not significantly affected by COVID. Towns are distributed 35% of the tax and may use the proceeds for any purposes. The county 65% of the land transfer is restricted to use for capital-related, debt service for capital, and thus the land transfer tax fund, along with the general fund transfer, are the primary sources of funding for the capital improvement fund. The capital investment fund. The 2021 revenue increase is not projected for future years, with 2022 budgeted and 2023 planned at 5% greater than 2022 through 2020 actual. The 2021 revenue increase has allowed for additional projects and for planned projects to schedules to be accelerated. The CIP and the debt affordability model were updated to maintain the board priority for EMS facilities in 2022, the placement of all public works facilities in 2023, and the College of the Albemarle Phase 3 in 2026. The projects recommended for 2022 are as follows. All of these are PAYGO unless it's noted as debt funded. $44,000 for roof replacement at the Mans Harbor Community Center, $26,000 for HVAC replacements at the Emergency Operations Center, $204,000 of major equipment for the Sheriff Mobile Data Computers and Information Technology Computers, $250,000 reserved for Dare Med-Flight for maintenance, which will be budgeted if and when needed, $643,000 for the requested local capital outlay for Dare County Schools, $1.65 million for the requested CIP funding for the Dare County Schools, $75,000 for a feasibility study and initial programming for the Public Works Facilities replacement planned in 2023, $100,000 for urgent EMS facilities improvements, $1.3 million for replacement equipment at Public Works, financed by debt over 59 months. These include a lowboy trailer, an excavator, compactor, small bulldozer, a roll-off truck, and a pup trailer. $100,000 for additional audio-visual system upgrades to the courthouse, $44,000 for additional funding to complete a 2020-21 sewer project for the detention center, $164,000 for upgrades and replacements to the cooperative extension facility, $285,000 for deck and boardwalk replacement at the Fessenden Center, $19,000 for EMS facilities financed by, $19.4 million for EMS facilities financed by an issue or issues of limited obligations bonds per the Oakley Collier EMS facilities report, and including the county share of a Kitty Hawk station to be constructed by the town of Kitty Hawk and a Kill Devil Hill station replacement. $3 million for the purchase of property financed by 10-year debt. The projects are the purchase and renovation of a building in Manio for a youth center and the purchase of the site for the previously mentioned Kill Devil Hills EMS station replacement. And $180,000 for the replacement of the roof of the courthouse financed by debt issuance over 5 years. The project is debt financed in order to pledge the property as collateral for the county's planned Series 2021B limited obligation bonds for the county share of the 2022 Towns Beach Nourishment Project. The CIP moves the plan 2000.
Bob,
I'm sorry.
Can we go back to the 1.3 for Public Works equipment?
Yes.
I thought we had in that some trucks, garbage.
We do. That's in a different place in the budget. That's
Okay, all right.
in the vehicle improvement.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Vehicle replacement plan.
We hadn't gotten there yet.
Well, I don't
Okay.
know, was it going to show up in this we go through?
Is it going to show up in the?
Sanitation.
It's in the sanitation fund. It's not, I didn't break it out
Okay,
specifically.
no problem.
But it is in there.
I just wanted to make sure we had
Yeah,
it
we
in there. I
do.
wasn't sure where we showed it. Thank you.
I'm trying to see where I was.
Right there.
23 and 24.
No, we, CIP.
Okay, the CIP moves the planned 2024 debt issuance for a new public works facility to 2023 and maintains the planned College of the Albemarle Phase 3 expansion in 2026. The board has approved a policy for the capital investments fund and the debt affordability model of maintaining an ending fund balance of not less than 0.33 times annual debt service with a target of 0.5 times. The recommended 2022 through 2026 CIP is projected to result in the following coverages of annual debt service ending fund balances. And you can see they range from a low of 0.76 to a high of 0.95. So we're well above our minimums and even our target of 0.5 coverage in each of those years. So the capital improvement plan is in good shape. Other funds, our disaster recovery fund, beginning with 2020, the disaster recovery fund is a separately budgeted part of the general fund. It budgets for software disaster recovery and $100,000 for the initial responses to any emergency. The board policy is to maintain an ending disaster recovery total fund of 1% of the general fund budget at June 30th, and at June 30th, 2021, that is projected to be 1.29%. So we're going to have enough there to exceed our minimum goals there as well. In the E911 fund, the NCE 911 board funding restarted in 2021 after a state mandated reduction in the fund balance. As you know, we had been saving for years for capital improvements in E911, and they stopped allowing us to save and made us spend down the savings, if you will, for operations. We've now got those down to the levels that they will approve, and so they're back to now funding out of their funds and not out of the saved funds that we had. In the Beach Nourishment Fund, the Beach Nourishment Fund is set per the Beach Nourishment financial model. 2022 includes $144,000 for sand fencing projects, $600,000 of debt service support for Nags Head, $1.3 million of debt service support for Duck, Kitty Hawk, and Kill Devil Hills, $7.1 million of county debt service payment for debt issuance for projects in Buxton, Nags Head, Kill Devil Hills, Kitty Hawk, and Duck. The town's maintenance project is planned for the summer of 2022. The maintenance project is for Kill Devil Hills, Kitty Hawk, and Duck, and we'll add a new project for Southern Shores. The project is expected to be bid as a county contract in July of 2021. The project is estimated to be $43 million, which includes an estimate of $7.1 million of FEMA Hurricane Dorian funding for the Duck and Kill Devil Hills portions. The county share of the contract will be $12.3 million and will be financed through a 5-year debt issuance, the Series 2021B limited obligation bonds that we discussed above when we talked about the courthouse roof replacement. A county maintenance project for Buxton and a new project for Avon is planned for the summer of 2022. The project is expected to be bid in December of 2021 as one county project with an estimate of $33 million, which includes an estimate of $8 million of FEMA Hurricane Florence and Dorian funding for the Buxton portion of the project. In the sanitation fund, before I go into sanitation fund, as you know, we've talked about it in every budget message probably for the last 5 years, and we've talked about it in each workshop for about the last 5 years, that the cost of sanitation is rising and our rates have remained constant for many, many years. We had a healthy fund balance, and so rather than raise rates, we began spending down that fund balance. We're now at a point where we can still use some of the fund balance to subsidize rates, but what I asked Dave to do, and he's got Hatteras on board to do some work for us going forward, is to start increasing those rates gradually and use some combination of small gradual rate increases with the fund balance so that when we get to a point that we can't use fund balance anymore, we don't have to have a great big 10 or 12 cent or some kind of large rate. It's easier to do it in really, really small increments. We're starting that process in this budget. Hatteras is going to do a study to tell us exactly what it should be in future budgets. So the sanitation fund's property tax rate is increased from 8.86 cents to 9 cents. So it's less than half a cent. The planned 2023 budget increases the rate to 9.25 cents. As tipping fees and operating costs, especially truck maintenance, has grown at a higher rate than the taxable property base, the fund has been appropriating fund balance each year to balance the budget and is nearing the end of that capacity. 2022 still appropriates fund balance of $243,000 to balance that budget. The maintenance cost of the aging truck fleet has drastically increased. Therefore, 4 new trucks are financed over 59 months, instead of the traditional practice of 2 trucks over 36 months. And so there's the trucks that you asked me about earlier. Rattel's financial consulting, that I said, has been engaged to perform a solid waste tax fee and structure study for the sanitation and C&D landfill. And again, the goal was to gradually increase that rate as we gradually decrease the amount of money that we subsidize it from the fund balance until we can get it to a rate that we no longer have to use fund balance. In the water fund model update for 2022 has been completed. In 2022, we'll have a 2-cent rate increase. That 2 cent is the rate increase that we've been doing. It's per the Rattel's model that we've used for a number of years, and so that just follows suit from that rate plan that we did a few years ago. And these are the water funds, and this just gives you some idea of how the financial plan works, from operations to things we're paying for with cash to debt and then to revenue. And as long as that revenue line is on the top of those bars, we're in good shape. And then you can look down, our coverage are solid. We're good in all of those numbers there. And so, again, the water fund's in good shape as well. For our fund balances, you got that slide, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. You can see there the E&R reserve, the rate stabilization operating reserve, and the restricted reserve. Again, those are all there and gives you the sum of those year over year through 2026 as projected. The recommended water CIP is complete and is included in the budget document for approval. The projects recommended for 2022 are as follows and are all pay-go. $1.5 million for the continuation of the automated meter reading system, $877,000 for a system-wide SCADA communication telemetry system. SCADA, that's the system that transmits the information from the pumps and the wells and the tanks back to the control panel at the water plant. $268,000 for replacement of membranes in units 4 and 5 at the North Reverse Osmosis plant. $285,000 for Southern Shores Elevated Tower maintenance and repainting. $166,000 for replacement of membranes in units 1 and 2 at the Rodanthe Wave Salvo Reverse Osmosis plant. $60,000 for the replacement of the variable frequency drives at the Kitty Hawk Pump Station. $112,000 for a 400K generator for the Rodanthe Wave Salvo Reverse Osmosis plant. And you should come up on a graph. I don't know if that's in there for the, yeah, those are the expenditures by year that we just went through and projecting into the future. Next, we come to our internal service funds. The county maintains 2 internal service funds, the insurance fund and the fleet maintenance fund, and adopts financial plans for each of those. The insurance fund is projected to end 2022 with revenues greater than expenditures of approximately $500,000. That result continues the fund's recovery from the significant losses in 2008, 9, and 13. And as discussed in the general fund, the health plan has no projected increase for 2022. In the fleet maintenance fund, is projected to maintain its fund balance of approximately $300,000. To conclude, the board is requested to hold a public hearing on the budget during the board meeting on June 7th. The board may schedule additional workshops or may adopt the budget at any time after the public hearing, including after the public hearing on May 7th. I want to thank the board for the guidance and direction that you all give. It makes it much easier for us if we know what you want and if we know what you would like for us to do. As you talk to us through the year, we try to include things that you talk about, and when we have our workshop, we try to include those things as well, and it makes the process for Dave and Sally and I a lot simpler when you do that. Can't thank Dave, Sally, and Ernie and their team enough. They do a tremendous amount of work. They do all the stuff. I make the decisions and sort of give them the guidance, but they make all the hard work, put all the documents together, and come back to me and say, now what do you want to do? And I figure out what we want to do, but I can't do it without them I can't do it without Dave. He helps me guide through what we've done historically. Ernie does the historical trend analysis, and Sally takes all this stuff and puts it together, and it's amazing the work that they do, and we couldn't do without it. And I guess I would certainly be remiss if I didn't mention our department heads. They have done a tremendous job through COVID and through the year maintaining. We talk about budget in every staff meeting. They do a great job managing their budgets. We have these budget deficits because they're frugal with their spending. They don't spend it just because they have it. And when we get to the end of the year, we don't have a spending spree that we've got money left over. Everybody wants to go buy stuff. We put it back in the general fund, and that allows us to do a lot of the things that you talked about. So I'm real proud of them and real proud of the work that they've done. And even, when they don't get all the things that they think they need or that they want, and they understand the process, and they make it work with what you all give them. And so we have, I think, a really good budget going forward. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have, and those that I can't answer, Dave can.
All right, thank you, Bobby. Well done. Nice presentation. I'll yield to the board. Is there any questions from the board members?
I have one question. I didn't see anything for dredging. Did I just miss it, or?
It's in there. The dredge fund is maintained and continued at the same levels as in the past. Was it in there, Dave? I don't know if it was in. It's in. I know it's in the budget.
It's in our workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was in the workshop. I just
Yeah,
didn't.
it's in the budget. It is.
Yeah. Rob, you with us? You have any questions?
Thank you, guys. No, I was following along, pretty much tracking along. Thank you, Dave, for forwarding those schedules to me. I appreciate the reconciliation of revenues and expenditures year over year. That helped me track with where we were headed. And clearly, as Bobby said to us and reaffirmed tonight, we are following and spending on the priorities of public safety, education, clean water, waterways, beach nourishment, and health and human services. And we are funding those departments, projects, and initiatives most impactful to the folks in Dare County. So, I'm not trying to pat us on the back so much as just reaffirm we're staying in line and on point with the strategies that we have discussed for, several years now that we've all been here, to reaffirm what we're trying to do and maintain here in Dare County. So, Bobby, thank you again. Nice job. I have no other questions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rob. Points well made. Anyone else? All right, with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to set a public hearing on the recommended budget for June 7, 2021.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to do so. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, that brings us to item 11, which is the consent agenda, and you have the approval of the minutes for both May 3rd meeting and the May 3rd retreat and the tax collector's report.
Motion to approve. Yep. He motioned it, I'll second it.
Okay, I was wondering, Commissioner Bateman made the motion to approve, and it's been seconded by Commissioner House as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And that leads us to item 12, and that's your board appointments. You have the first ones at the Hatteras Community Center. The terms of George Banks, Dennis Robinson, and Jeff Oden expire in June. They all wish to be reappointed for another 2-year term.
Move to reappoint.
There's a motion on the floor to reappoint by Vice Chair Overman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner House. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Senior Tar Heel Legislative Delegates. The terms for Kay White and Suzanne Kelly expired in February of 2021. Kay White would like to be reappointed as a delegate for another 2-year term, and Suzanne Kelly would like to be reappointed as an alternate delegate for another 2-year term.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to reappoint.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner House to reappoint. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then the last one is the College Albemarle Board of Trustees. Dr. David Reed Corbett's term expires in June of 2021, and he'd like to be reappointed.
Move to reappoint.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman to reappoint. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman and House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That'd be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 13, which is Commissioner's Business, County Manager. And I would like to ask Commissioner Bateman if he would kick that off this evening.
I sure would. When Bobby was given the budget, last year, guys, we were sitting here in May, not knowing what the future held. And of course, our staff, finance, all the department heads, everybody came back and revised their budgets that they'd already submitted and everything. So, I mean, it's crazy how a year can turn around and do a complete flip-flop. Now we're here, getting ready to a public hearing on a budget that's, the future looks much brighter. And it's just crazy how that does turn around and change things. The other thing is I went to the, with Commissioner Wally Overman and House and Woodard to the Manu Commons grand opening. It was a good time. You know, a lot of folks there, and that's going to be a beautiful park. And once again, as my friend Bobby Owens said, that's a combination of Tourist Bureau, county, and local municipality coming together and having a really great project. And it's going to be good for Manu, but it's also going to be really good for Dare County. And basically, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bateman. Commissioner Couch?
Yes, sir. With COVID and last year, even though we saw increases in revenues, I, as well as everyone on this board, has seen the stresses that have gone on with our departments. I've seen the planning staff really rise to meet the demands. Health and Human Services, certainly the Sheriff's Department. Yes, we're growing. Yes, there's a lot of revenue rolling around, but they're working their rear ends off. And I'm really proud of the efforts that's going through. One good thing about having little turnover in our departments, particularly with leadership, is that you have that continuity, and that experience means everything when you've got to make tough decisions. So kind of echoing what Irvin said, here we've gone through this budget, and again, we've seen our people rise to the top. When you have revenue increases like that, it's sometimes you can get a little greedy and get a little overbearing on some things for your department, but these are not a lot of what we're seeing in the budget. These are not a lot of, this is not a Christmas wish list. This is stuff that's going to allow them to continue that same level of service. So kudos to our department heads and the personnel in Dare County government. Other than that, Hatteras is just kicking it. It is so busy down there.
I was getting ready to say, when the superintendent made his presentation, I looked over there at you and I said, Danny's been preaching this over and over and over, and he validated it tonight. It's phenomenal, the numbers. It just blows your mind.
Yeah, we're going to have a good year.
Yeah. And I noticed when he was going over, Danny was smiling from ear to ear. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Keeps them from complaining when they're busy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tobin.
Okay, the Hatteras Village Offshore Open was this past week, and it was very successful. The boat and crew off of Top Dog won the tournament in the overall points, but I'd like to give a big shout out to Ron Whitaker on release, who landed a 574.5-pound blue marlin. I believe Rom has been fishing that tournament for something like 27 years, somewhere in that ballpark, and has never landed a winning fish, but he did this year, so that's a big one. We had a conference call on the dredge today, not with a full crew, but we got back the drivetrain analysis for the outdrives and the main power, and there were some problems. There's a thing called LVA, which is lateral vibration analysis, and the lateral vibration analysis has exceeded the specs with a full power at 1800 RPM. So if you drop that, 1800 RPM is overpowered for the outdrives anyway. So if you drop it down to 1700 RPM, the lateral vibrations ceased and the cordon shaft was operating within all of its tolerances. So in the call, we all agreed that 1700 RPM would be what we would detune the main power to. And they can adjust the pitch of the props and bring the actual operating of the ship back up to the proper speed and everything. So just a little technical tweak they had to do, but tomorrow we'll have another conference call with everybody on board and go over everything else. That's all I got.
Good deal. Thank you, Commissioner Tobin. Commissioner Howard?
Not a whole lot. I do want to give kudos, like a lot of the rest of us have here. County Manager Dave and the entire staff. We have in the county budget very well presented. Everything in there makes very good common sense running the county the way it has been. And like I said, there's no real fluff in it at all. Everything in there seems to be above board and what's needed. So my congratulations go out to your staff and getting everything put in there and listening to us during the workshops. I know sometimes it's not easy either. But I want to thank you for your very well presentation tonight. Our day in history got a few things. In 1875, Rob, you'll like this one, first running of the Kentucky Derby.
Nah,
And
I was there for the 147th, Steve.
Oh, you weren't there for the first one?
No, unfortunately.
And in 1939, the first televised baseball game was on NBC, where Princeton beat Columbia 2-1. And in 1973, televised hearings started today of the Watergate trials, and from the Senate Select Committee. And North Carolina Senator Sam Ervin was the chairperson for that. So that's your day in history. And we all like school. We talked about education tonight in our budget. And now we have a pet at our SPCA who is on the honor roll. Let's take a look at Billy.
Our pet of the week for this week is Billy. Billy is almost 2 years old. He is incredibly intelligent and is on our honor roll here at the shelter. Billy is an Australian Shepherd mix, which means he wants a home that understands his need for mental stimulation. He loves to ride in the car, play with toys, and go for a swim. This fellow really enjoys the water. Billy would prefer a home with older kids and could possibly live with another dog in an experienced home. To adopt Billy or foster one of our other animals, you can come visit us Tuesday through Sunday at our shelter located in Manteo. This week, join us at Jimmy's Seafood Buffet, Thursday, May 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. We will also be at Longboards Island Grill Friday, May 21st from noon to 3 p.m. For more information, visit our website at www.obxspca.org or visit our OBX SPCA Facebook page.
So if you get behind a SPCA vehicle and it's got a My Student Honor Roll bumper sticker, you know it's Billy. So go take a ride down there, take a look at him, and see if you can take an Australian Shepherd with you home. And Billy would love to have your place to be his forever home. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner House. Commissioner Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thanks to all of you, my fellow commissioners, for your patience and indulgence on my remote participation here. I always enjoy being there in person. Unfortunately, circumstances are keeping me here in Ohio for a bit longer. Right off the bat, thank you to Dave and Mike. What great presentations on National Park Service and Jennette's Pier. I thought those were terrific, and I really appreciated that. The second thing, I look forward, as I'm sure we all will, to the not so far in the future appearance of young Ms. Schuster via some sort of invite to an LPGA event. This young lady is off the charts talented, and we all in Dare County should be very, very proud of her accomplishments in the game of golf. Last comment I have is regarding our COVID-19 pandemic. We are now through about the first 15 days of May, so I went back to our website and did a couple of numbers. The first 15 days of January of this year, there were 578 reported positive cases in Dare County, 578. February, same 15-day period, 1 through 15, 165. Very good drop. March, 68. April, 72. May, 49. I think the indicative trend here is extremely reassuring, very positive for our county, and just a confirmation of the efforts from all involved to bring this under control to where we can hopefully return soon to a much more normal existence. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Appreciate it. Vice Chairman Overman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you remember, a few meetings ago, I mentioned that I had reached out to Lumen Technologies regarding, which is basically CenturyLink, regarding broadband here in the county. Had some further communication with Steve Brewer of Lumen on May the 11th. And basically, he said that changes to the GREAT Act were actually being filed that day in the General Assembly. And Lumen was going to review those changes and see how they affected how we could work together, assuming that the bill becomes law. So we hope to hear from him in the near term about that. The bill number is HB 947. It makes for some interesting reading, and there are some changes to that regarding the minimum speed limits that they can get involved with. I also had some conversation or email with Eric Collins of Charter Spectrum. If you recall, I had asked them to provide us a quote from their engineering group regarding what it would cost to extend their service out into the mainland. And he is pushing to get he has not had a response from them yet, but he is pushing them to get a response for us as soon as possible. So I hope to come back to you with some information on that as soon as that's available. I'd like to mention also about the Manio Commons that we had the grand opening on the other day for Phase 1. They have, in essence, 2 more phases for that area, for the Commons, and it looks really good. And there are at least 55 parking spaces there that are going to make an important contribution to the downtown traffic in Manio this summer. That will make a huge difference. Phase 2 is going to involve some border vegetation that they're going to put around it. There's a lot there with a house on it that they're going to kind of border that off, and it's going to look pretty good, and it's going to be real nice. I think Phase 3 at one time there was some conversation about putting a statue of Chief Manio on there, and I think they're kind of, just from a funding standpoint, kind of putting that out into the future until things look a little better. Still looking for grants to do a lot of that work, so that will be in the future as well. And again, guys, thank you for a great budget. Thank you for all your work, Dave, Bobby, appreciate it, and all your staff. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. You know, when we were out there Friday, we were getting ready to leave, and the mayor said, have you checked out our bike stands? And the bike stands were kind of interesting. They're going to have air, just like I guess what you have at a gas station. They'll have air there for you to pump your tires up. But they also have a set of tools there that if your bike breaks down, you'll have tools to be able to use to work on your bike.
That's cool.
So I thought that was kind of unusual that he was saying that they were going to have that at the bike racks.
I miss that.
Yeah.
Are they nailed down?
Yeah. 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 They're gonna be nailed.
Somebody's gonna spray paint the bike.
I can't keep them apart, I know that.
Do I?
Said I can't keep tools at work.
Yeah, I know. So,
Keep them at home.
well, I thought it fairly interesting, so we shall see. We shall see. I'd like to echo my fellow board members as well. Dave, you do an incredible job with finances and your staff, and Bobby and Sally, you guys work really hard. So thank y'all for all the hard work and making us look good. So we appreciate it. Anything else, Bobby?
I got two things.
Okay.
One is with the governor's order on Friday, pretty much all of the rules and requirements that are applicable to county government are gone. There's nothing really except for the health department and those kind of things. And so we're going to have a staff meeting tomorrow. We're going to start moving things back to normal for county services and operations and those kind of things as we go forward, subject to whatever. Sheila and I talked this morning, and she's on board. So just to let you know, as we transition from where the governor's order is now, we don't have any orders in place in DARE that are different than what the governor says, and so we're going to follow CDC and North Carolina Health and Human Services recommendation for the county government operations going forward. The second thing is, you all got an email, and I sent you an email that said we ought to probably discuss it, from the Association of County Commissioners. And it was with regard to charter schools. As you know, there's a statute in place now that says if there's a charter school operating in the county, then whatever the per pupil amount of money that the school gets from us, they have to take out of their budget and give to the charter school. So our number was, what was it, Dave? $4,000 or $5,000? It's $5,000.
44 something.
44. So for every charter school pupil for a charter school in Dare County, they have to take it out of their budget. I don't know how anybody feels about charter school, but the problem for the public schools is that their fixed costs don't change. And as you know, when we worked into this formula for how we fund schools, we did a study of what's fixed and what is costing. Very, very few, a very small percentage of the cost changes with one or two students. It only changes when you get 50 or 100 students and you have to have additional teachers, and then if you meet the criteria, then the state pays for those. And so really, for the most part, what we fund isn't based on a per pupil formula, and we don't use that anymore. Our formula isn't based on per pupil, it's based on actual cost versus a CPI, and there's only a small part of it, that usually a few $1,000s a year, that is based on per pupil. I say all that because there's a bill in the legislature that now says they want to take capital funds. So for whatever percentage of capital funds there are, then the county could pay a charter school capital dollars that would no longer go to the schools, but would go into the charter schools. The association has come out opposed to that. They've asked counties to come out opposed to that as well. Among the things that they say are that county resources for public schools are already limited. There's an $8 billion unmet K-12 public school need. Applying further pressure to capital funds would spread the strained resources even thinner. Taxpayers own the schools, they don't own the charter schools. Most of the time, the county owns the funded projects and can put money in funded projects that they own, and a number of other things that are in the email that you got. And so I bring it to you to say, before we go back to the association and say yay or nay, I think you all need to tell me how to respond. I wasn't comfortable saying we were for or against it if we hadn't discussed it. So I bring that to you for guidance.
Any comments from any of my fellow commissioners?
I'd like to take some time to look it over and get a feel for it myself.
How pressed are we, Bobby?
Well, just
This came out Wednesday. They were looking for me to tell them something on Wednesday. I mean, they said there's action coming, they thought this week, and so it won't, apparently we can't wait till the next board meeting.
I don't like the timing of it.
Yeah, do we know where the bill is in the?
It was going through committee then. it passed the House Education K-12 committee on Tuesday, and may go to the House vote as late as the end of last week, so it may already be in the process according to this. But it still has to go, it hadn't been to the Senate yet, so.
Right.
I mean, what are the odds of our county having a charter school?
I'm not sure, but I think we may have one.
We do have one.
Do
I
have
believe
one.
we have, yeah, I believe
What
we
is
have
it?
one.
One Cheese Christian Academy?
I think that's a private school.
That's
Is
private.
that, is
I don't
that,
know. I don't
is
know.
that charter or private?
That's private.
No, I'm
There
asking
there
questions.
was one in Corolla at one time. I don't know if it's still there. And
Yeah.
I want to say there was one
They-
here.
They've told me the money they're paying out goes to for students that live here.
So,
going to
so we're
Corolla.
sending money out of the school budget now to Corolla for the charter school in Corolla, for Dare County kids that go to that charter school.
I mean, I don't mind us having if we can take a look at it the next day or so and come to some terms or,
Well, you can't just, I mean, we can't do it outside of a meeting. and have-
no, I know, but I'm saying that if we can,
Contact them individually?
Can you contact me individually?
Contact, it probably says call you.
Oh, for sure. You can contact, politically, anybody you want
I mean,
individually.
they're not looking for a resolution, they're looking for, are they looking for a vote from us, or are they
They
working
were
for a
looking for-
consensus, or what?
What they're looking for is for me to tell them Dare County opposes this in support of the association. I told them I couldn't do that without the board having
Right.
talked about it, so,
It's too late for that.
well, it didn't pass yet, so it's never too late. So I brought it to you to talk about, to tell me what to do or do nothing.
So the financial ramifications to Dare County is what?
What it does is if you're gonna take capital money to give to a charter school, much as it costs, if we've got 10 kids that go there, it costs us $40,000 out of the school board's budget that they can't use to pay their expenses, to pay expenses for that kid in a charter school in Corolla. If we're paying $4,000 a kid right now. And so if, on top of that, they want to put capital money, so if they want to add a wing on that school, then are we going to pay, by this legislation, a share of that capital money to that charter
Having
school?
said that, I'm not for it.
I've got some
I'm not
problems
for
with it too. I agree with the association
If I
of
say no,
county commissioners. That's mine. I agree with Urban.
Yeah, I'm highly opposed to that as well.
I mean, we need to take care of our kids and
That's right.
our schools.
I don't mind putting it towards the board tonight for a motion, I'm comfortable with doing that, because I'm not in favor of doing that.
If you make that motion and authorize you to write a letter, or I will write a letter for your signature stating.
I'll make that motion.
Stating our position.
Okay,
Second.
Commissioner Baton's made that motion, it's been seconded by Commissioner Couch, and floor is open for more discussion.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of, if you have a pupil that wants to go to a charter school, then at least that per pupil education expense should probably go with them to help them. But I don't think it should involve the school capital funds to go with it as well. So I think in that aspect, the bill is actually flawed. But if they could amend the bill,
There's already a statute that says that the per pupil cost goes. That's been passed and it's
Right.
law now.
right. But what I'm saying is, it's like the method we use is not a per pupil method.
No.
So it's kind of hard for us to fathom how that's doing. And also what amazes me too is the state has recognized that our system is far better than the pure pupil budgeting system.
Well, the way they come to per pupil doesn't matter how we do it. They take our, how many dollars that we give
Right.
the school and divide it by the students, and that becomes our per pupil contribution to the charter school for kids that go there, irrespective of whether we use that to determine our funding or not.
Right.
That's how the state does it.
Yeah. So like I said, in the essence, the way the bill is written, I don't really agree with it.
Anyone else? Rob, are you listening?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My question is, how much capital, Dave, will we fund to the Dare County schools this year?
It's 1.6 plus 6, about 2.2 million.
2.2 million. We have 5,100 students. That's $400 per student. If there's some, what I'm trying to do, guys, is understand. I feel like I'm in the hallway standing on one foot and someone's asking me for a strategic decision while I finish a cup of coffee. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to identify what the magnitude and context of this is. Is it, if it's a per pupil allocation, we're talking about $400 a student, and if 10 kids are going to Corolla, that's $4,000 a year on a $24 million operating budget and a $2 million capital budget, which is basically a non-event.
Right.
If I'm following that correctly, it's a $4,000 discussion we're having. Dave, is that right?
Well,
But it doesn't.
yes, sir, assuming the status quo.
Assuming the status quo and assuming that they use that formula to determine the capital contribution, which the statute's silent on.
So they could say your capital contribution is all $2 million because it's silent?
Well,
None of that makes sense to me.
Well, I agree. That's sort of the point of Steve's argument. The bill doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, well, on that basis, I would be opposed to it. I would like to have a formulaic understanding of what they're asking us to commit to or agree to, because in the little example, if they followed the identical formula per pupil, as I say, it's a non-event. It's a $4,000 discussion that doesn't merit any time.
The last paragraph says the charter school funding parity. It says, is the intent of the General Assembly to ensure that all state funds for public school students attending charter schools are provided in amounts on the basis of comparable funds provided for public schools attending other units. And so they're trying to take dollars that we allocate between public schools and reallocate them to charter schools if there are charter schools throughout the state. Now, for us, right at the moment, it would have a minimal impact today.
And also the way of looking at it too, it's not just the funding that we as Dare County taxpayers put in it, but it's also the funding that the state taxpayers on the state side put into it as well. That make sense, Rob?
Yeah,
Yep.
it does. You know, I'm kind of a general. I would just share with you publicly. I'm a general proponent of selecting and giving kids a chance to pick the best schools they can. Now, I happen to be very pleased and very proud of Dare County, and I'm very pleased with our system, our teachers, our administration. But I know there are a heck of a lot of schools that, frankly, parents are fed up with, and they're looking for alternatives. And I don't object to that. The freedom of choice is a pretty strong one. Now, again, I'm not going to say I'm in favor of this because I don't understand the allocation method, and I would have liked to have had that spelled out in the bill. So at this point, I would say, yeah, okay,
Well, the way it's written,
Exactly.
I can't support it the way it's written.
okay. Okay.
Well, one last thing I'll say is if you read through it, it says all the things we just says, but it doesn't, it's really strange, it doesn't also direct anything. It's more, as I read it, more authority driven, that you can.
Yeah, this is just a very unusual, bizarre situation to be discussing something of a significant strategic nature this way, almost as a footnote to our 2.5-hour meeting. It just strikes me as very unusual. So, are we collectively saying we are opposed to the bill as
Well,
written?
we're under that discussion. There's a motion on the floor to oppose the way it's presented now. And so we're under that discussion. with respects to opposing the way it's written. And it's had a second. Somebody ready to call for the question?
Call the question.
All right, then those in favor of the motion that's on the floor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Sounds like that's unanimous to me.
We'll prepare a letter to.
So you've prepared that letter, and I'll sign it. Anything else, County Manager?
No, sir, that's all I have.
Our Public Information Officer, Ms. Hester, do you have anything for us this evening?
Very quickly, you all probably recall that you proclaimed this week officially Dare EMS Week.
Correct.
That's
So,
correct.
yes, I just wanted to mention that, and it gives us an opportunity to recognize those that are working for our EMS around the clock and through the pandemic. They're having a coloring contest and a poster contest, so that's running this week. Kids are encouraged to submit artwork at stations 1, 2, or 3. So that would be Kill Devil Hills, Manio, or Frisco.
Guess I need to get my crayons out.
That's right.
That's right.
And the
Is there
theme
an age group?
is, the artwork should use the theme of 2021. This is EMS caring for our communities. So there's information on the EMS webpage, darenc.com/EMS. And if you see anybody that's working for EMS, be sure and thank them for their service. I just wanted to make sure we
Thank you.
Thank you for the
acknowledge them.
reminder.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for the reminder. Appreciate it.
And Dorothy, I would like to add too, in the times when I was at EMS and something was to come up and the general public wanted to come up and thank us, keep in mind, please don't do it if you see the ambulance with the red lights on a call.
How you gonna thank somebody with an ambulance running with a red light?
Well, it wasn't that, like we were on a scene pulling a patient out of a house, and the family, or not family members, but members across the street would come up and thank us just for being first responders. I actually had one situation where we had a patient in the back. We were doing CPR on there in full cardiac arrest, and I was getting ready to get in the driver's seat and drive, and I had a passerby on the street stopped, and they wanted to ask me why is ambulance spelled backwards on the front of the ambulance. And it's because you can see it in your rearview mirror where it says ambulance. But that's the type of situation I want to try to avoid. Yes, definitely please thank your EMS personnel. Just don't do it while they're on a call. You might be affecting a patient's life, so thank you.
Well, we're fortunate in Dare. They do a wonderful job, no question about it. Finance Director, Mr. Clausen, you have anything else for us this evening?
Just real quickly, we should either tomorrow or Wednesday get our first half of the federal rescue plan payment.
All right.
And just in case you hear, the guidance is 151 pages long, and I'm through
All right.
about 35. If you hear affordable housing is eligible, it is only if you have what's called a qualified census tract, and we don't have one. Broadband is the same, I think the same rules as what the gentleman from CenturyLink presented to the board, so that one's a possible, and that's as far as I've gotten so far.
A little bit of light reading in it.
And there's a webinar that I signed up for tomorrow at 3 o'clock that they're going to go through some of that too. So hopefully I'm going to get a executive summary that can avoid maybe 159 of those pages.
Yeah, wow.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. All right, good deal. Good meeting, fellas, guys. I need a motion to adjourn until June 7th at 9 a.m.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tobin, seconded by Commissioner House. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
like sign. Motion carries unanimous.